I hate the word unalive. YouTube has been barreling towards what this comment under this Kappa Kaiju video puts, the most boring dystopia. Our media monopolies have gracefully told us in this time of the world ending to soften our words. Due to the mass censorship of media companies, it's become more of a used term among other fake words like grape, PDF file, and left the server as substitutes. I wouldn't really care that much, but to a point, I've been watching some of these hacks and disturbing content corners use these terms in documentaries on disappearances, true crime, and actual serious topics. And it makes me angry. I feel I should be blunt. If you hear these terms, call it out. Don't justify it. If the person in the video doesn't respect you enough to lose some coins, then you shouldn't respect them. Especially if they don't seem to respect other people and say what the situation is. There's already a grotesque gray zone in making videos off tragedies. I've seen some videos on the Twistx death on May 31st, 2013, and I don't like the sensationalism that comes from it. These were real people, and this was a real tragedy, not just some content. I'll get to that word too. What I hate about unalive specifically is how it neuters the term it translates. Words like suicide and rape are real violent words that convey genuine trauma. They're awful acts, and that's why we use those words. That's why we have that context. In comparison, we say terms like passed away when we refer to death in a neutral passive context because the cause of death is both taboo and intense, and sometimes it can come off as disrespectful to say a person was murdered instead of died. It implies the person's only existence was their cause and not that, that's just where their life ended. However, unalive isn't just a term that implies a sarcasm. It's a fake word. It doesn't have any prior context in our culture. It's a new and ultimately useless word. In the same way, the human league is sarcastic because it implies the existence of an anti-human league. The reason undead works isn't just because it doesn't imply life, but also because dead is a single syllable word with one definition. Undead isn't alive, and unalive isn't dead. You can't unalive. Alive is a present term, dead is a present term. You can't be not dead or not alive in the present. You're either alive or dead. You get what I mean? Unalive is used as a substitute for suicide, which is gross because that is a real thing people do, but also people commit suicide for intense, dark reasons, real reasons that have consequences, and unalive, sarcastic eye roll makes it seem entirely fake and dismissive. The same reason you spell out words so your kids don't hear it. I don't like the use of PDF file either because, and I'm dead serious here, pedophiles aren't really a joke. Actually, pedophilia isn't a joke. People who take advantage of children or take advantage of systems to obtain sexual gratification through children who do not understand sex isn't something that should be dismissed. It's a disgusting and vicious fucking form of assault. And if you're going to talk about pedophilia, fucking talk about it. Say the word and outline the disgust. When you mask it with a file format, you make it seem fake. SI and DV are acronyms, and at the very least, I can understand why people use them to avoid getting flagged. I don't agree with it, but I get it. Grape as a substitute for rape is egregious, but at the very least, it's a subtle cover. I still know what they mean since you can't grape a person. Grapes aren't a verb. All of this covering is done to avoid getting flagged by YouTube and its algorithm. I understand that, yes. But I feel like to a certain extent, if you're going to talk about something that advertisers don't want their products on, regardless of the ethics and morals of that, you can't turn around and be surprised the check is pulled back. People will contest this on the basis that not only has YouTube gotten far too kid-friendly, but also so has the entire internet, which makes it hard to exist in public spaces without walking on eggshells. Which is ironic because you know who loves gore and violence? Children. All of them. Okay, maybe not all of them. Children love doing things they're not supposed to, or at least healthy children. This is for the lazy parents who don't watch their children, which in turn drives people to neuter their talking points. And YouTube has been very distant on allowing subject matter that's inherently intense in any fucking way, which sucks, including swearing, which I'm a bad cuss, so I know how frustrating that is. I talk about very different and uncomfortable topics, and YouTube really only likes one type of video, and it's the type that screams on you to buy some product that you don't want, but you're going to buy because you want to support the creator because you're stuck in a relationship with someone who does not care about you. Still, if you're going to do a true crime or disturbing video collection thing, you can't treat the subject like it's nothing because it's an insult to the people involved. A victim of murder isn't unalived. They're murdered. A person killed them, and they deserve respect. They're not just your canvas to make money off of. I make pretty intense videos on this channel, and nothing bores and sickens me more than the idea of holding back what I talk about. I'm not against trigger content warnings for the record, because that's for the audience intended, not the vicarious parents neglecting their edgy child. There was one time I took down some videos because I thought I was going to get in trouble with them, and I backed off on that like a couple days later, both because I realized it was stupid, but also because I realized I wasn't going to get anything out of it. If I made my videos boring, I would stop making videos. I think it's ironic how the people who freaked out and cried over trigger warnings don't seem to care much about Unalive as much, probably because they never cared at all, since all they cared about was their content. I don't think I've grown to loathe the word used for videos on this platform as viciously as that one. And it's not just for videos either. Movies, cinema, theater, video games, arcades, albums, symphonies, and merchandise all get clumped together under the umbrella term content. YouTube itself refers to videos as content. Content is a neutral term with no real substance. The stuffing you pile into your teddy bear is content because it's stuffing. The content of soup is ingredients. The electrical components of a computer aren't content. Content is a meaningless word to combine a bunch of subjects, and I hate how it gets used in art forms. YouTube is not a content platform. It's a video hosting site. Streams are live-fed videos. Videos are made in segments. Short-form videos are videos. Yes, it has video games and movies on it, I guess, but those two aren't content either. They're media. Creations aren't treated as videos, documentaries, entertainment, or even just memes. They're all piled together as content, which just weakens their intent. It weakens their message. If a video game and movie sit on the same shelf, that's great. However, if that shelf is below the brand, as in content, then it doesn't mean anything. It's just an extension. If the album, movie, and video game tie-in are all content, then it's all nothing. The director, engineers, set creators, game testers, producers, sound associates, and marketers are all basically have the same goal of making content. That way, they aren't making anything at all, because content is disposable. Teddy bear stuffing can be replaced and refilled when it gets old or falls out. However, the album beneath the CD is not content. There's emotional resonance, memories, price, cultural context, origins, and destinations for it. The album itself has something to it that the stuffing inside a bear doesn't. You can't take the songs out of an album and change them without changing the product. The point of a teddy bear is to be friendly and pleasant. I've grown exhausted and frustrated with the way YouTube and its users have switched over to viewing the videos on it as content. People will make videos of wildly different reasons for uploading. Most people don't upload, in fact. The few who do don't seek out fame or fortune and are usually just putting it up for fun. However, I've noticed a lot of channels view it as a business venture entirely, and since there are so many videos, usually spam, it's easy to become cynical and dismiss it all as content. Stuff for the void. I'm not saying plenty of YouTubers don't do it with the goal of making money or a business from it, some do, but I do dislike the label on all, because it says more about the tunnel vision from the creator imposing the label than the target they apply it to, especially for commentary or reaction channels, because the idea that you start out on YouTube and make content for your career and then move on to something better later. I'm not saying moving on to acting or production isn't inherently valuable, but if videos, home movies, short movies, and documentaries are just content when they get on YouTube, then what makes the thousands of movies any better? They're just content too. A lot of people put a lot of work into their videos, and I think a lot of those people don't really appreciate it being seen as a stepping stone. And if everything is content, then everything is disposable. If a movie is content, the performances, characters, shots, and sets are all content, and the people who push those visions are content, thus it all means nothing. The songs on an album are content, the session musicians are content, the stage producers are content. When it's all content, it's not art. People produce things for a lot of reasons, some cynical, some not. But all in all, the only people who produce content for its own sake are spammers. YouTube's normalization of this term have led to more intense subject matter to become weak under terms like unalive because it all sits on the same umbrella. Videos about real subjects are just points in time or brief confrontations before we get back to the fun stuff. Extensions of existing media like fan podcasts into sections. The reason people write about art and media is because they enjoy it, want to validate it, and want to see more of it. If you trust your audience, they will trust you. Not every single person and not every single target, but it is mostly the truth. If you make a video where you trust the audience will understand it versus some negative slop for the algorithm farm, the former will result in the usual negative reactions and the latter will just have people joining in the bloodbath. If I can ask one small thing of anyone who runs across this, I think there should be more pushback towards terms like unalive and content on YouTube and across the entire internet. It's not making people dumber because people were already stupid. It's demeaning how we view the word we produce as stuffing for the eldritch teddy bear. I'm encouraging people to be mean to creators who lean into horror, the macabre, and true crime alike, especially if the subject is nonfiction and based off real people. Stop dramatizing real crimes for entertainment and dehumanizing the people and subject matter for money. I can partially understand if the subject is intended for all audiences, including small children. I can partially understand if it's a detour in a lighthearted video or channel. Still, I would be honest. People don't desire bland content or background noise. The people want what the people get. People drifted to long-form streaming and short-form distractions because that's what the platforms incentivize. That's what people began to make, as that's where the money was. YouTube is not going to change unless the people who exist under the platform change, and this applies to other video hosting platforms. Your audience will respect you if you respect them back. If you explain to them why something's happening and you hear their perspective and they hear yours together, the transition becomes a lot more smooth than if you abruptly change course and watch them all bleed out.